Porsche Cayman values are down by 5 to 13% compared to their market top, that is, on average. Some generations experienced larger price drops than others, and in this video we will dissect the current state of the market and figure out why now might not be the best time to purchase one. At least if you care about values. We'll start with a quick market overview before looking at the price trends. Over here we have the US market of November split by generation and by model type. You can see that we have the base, S, GTS, GTS 4 liter and T models. The GT4s, GT4 RSs and the Rs are not included in the video. They will be covered separately. Now in total there are 399 cars for sale. Prices start at $20,000 and go up to $120,000 for the 4 liter GTSs. Looking at the prices, we can see that there's a large overlap. So this means that you have several choices for a given budget. A low mileage 987S also gets you into a 981, and a low mileage 981S also gets you into a 718. I think you get the point. The GTSs though are a bit special. The 981 GTS is approximately $22,000 or 44% more expensive than the 981S model. The premium increased significantly during the last 3 months. In the 718 market it is with $13,000 or 18% a lot lower. I do then also think that many petrolheads, including myself, have a 981 GTS very high on their list. Alright, we discussed now how the market looks and what cars will be included in this video. So let's get into the details and have a look at the price trends. And to keep things a bit organized, I will first share the high level trends with you, and only after that we will dive into the trends for each generation. At the end of the video we'll place all of these developments in a market context and discuss the purchasing of a Cayman. Over here we have the price trends for the 718, 981 and 987 market. It is clear that the short-term trend is down. Compared to May, 718s are down by 6.5%, 981s by 12.5% and 987s by 6%. Prices are decreasing and the decrease rate appears to be accelerating slightly. On average, all cars are then also cheaper than 1 year ago. So after a crazy run-up during the pandemic, Caymans are depreciating again. If we take a quick look at the supply levels, we can see that also these are heavily correlated. Supply surged during the pandemic, topped in the beginning of this year and is now decreasing again. So this is a typical case where a decrease in supply does not lead to a decrease in prices. There is of course also something called demand. Now on an aggregate basis, prices decreased approximately the same in the 718 and the 987 market, while prices decreased slightly more in the 981 market. That's not the full story though. Also within each generation we can spot differences in the price trends. We'll now dive into those details and investigate some of the differences. First up is the 987.1 market. Over here we have the price trend split by the base and the S models, and compared to August of last year, base models are down by 14.3% and S models by 4.5%. And that's a significant difference, and this is fully the result of the last 3 months. Prices for base models dropped by 14.3%, while this was 7.3% in the S market. However, I think that this drop in the base market is a bit misleading. The cars that are for sale today have a significantly higher mileage than 3 months ago. When you track the prices for cars with similar mileages, you can see that the drop is more in line with the S market. For both models goes by the way that low mileage cars decrease the least. So what about the differences between an automatic and a manual 987.1? Personally, I would much prefer a manual over an automatic. Well, based on the data, prices for those two transmission types moved in parallel. Over here we have the 987.1 market split by model type and by transmission type. And you can see that the price trends fluctuate a lot and that the confidence intervals are large. Most of these fluctuations between the manuals and automatics are then also noise. Look for example at the 987.1 base market. Prices moved almost exactly in parallel with exception of the last 3 months. And this is because the median mileage in the automatic base market increased by 30,000 miles while it remained flat in the S market. All of this may look like a lot of nitty-gritty, but it's important to keep this in the back of your mind when looking at the data. And with that in mind, it's time to have a look at the 987.2 market. If we look at the price trends for the base and the S models, it appears that prices crashed in the S market. Compared to last year, they are down by 27%, but this is inaccurate. The median mileage increased from 28 to 69,000 miles and the price change is just a reflection of the mileage increase. Also, the price trend in the base market is a tad unreliable. On average, it is based on 7 cars per date, and that's on the low side. Mileage during the last 6 months though was relatively stable. So alas, it's difficult to say something reliable about the 987.2 market. Now to give you an idea about the price changes, I looked at the cars that were for sale 3 months ago and are still for sale today, and then compared the prices. And it turns out that prices decreased by $1.9 thousand, and this equals a drop of approximately 5%. And I think this is a fair approximation of the price change. It by the way also shows that out of the 19 cars that are listed today, 4 were already listed quite some time ago. Now after that deep dive in the 987 market, it's time to have a look at a market with a bit more supply, the 981 market. But before we do so, if you enjoyed this video, please support the channel by clicking on the like button down below. Thank you. Over here we have the price trends in the 981 market split by the base, S and GTS models. And this reveals some interesting differences. Compared to May, base prices are down by 8.8%, S prices by 12.3%, and GTS prices by 4.6%. Though the 12.3% increase in the S market is on the high side. The mileage increased considerably in that market, and we can see that the median price lays at the bottom of the confidence interval. Nevertheless, both the base and the S models dropped below a key level. S models used to hover around $60,000 and base models around $50,000. That price floor broke now and the trend turned down. Now if we take a step back and look at the differences between the base, S and GTS models, we can see that the first two saw much larger increases during the pandemic. Between February 2020 and 2022, base models increased by 19%, S models by 25% and GTSs by only 14%. On the flip side though, GTSs appear to be much more resilient to the current market correction. This is of course a premature conclusion, but interesting nonetheless. Perhaps the GTS premiums were already on the high side prior to the pandemic, hereby limiting its upwards potential somewhat. After all, it has always been a hugely desirable car. Now before we move on to the 718 market, there's still one more thing that I would like to show you about the 981. If we split the largest market segment, the one for the base market by transmission type, we can namely see that the transmission type is of relatively little importance. The two price trends are highly correlated and dance around each other depending on the market composition for a specific case. And this is what you can observe for many cars. The trends develop in a similar pattern. There are of course also exceptions to this, but that's content for a different video. And with that, let's move on to the 718. Over here we have the base, S, T, GTS and 4-liter GTSs. And note that the scaling of the graph is a bit different than before, due to the inclusion of the 4-liter GTSs. Now looking at these trends, we can clearly see that the prices increased during the beginning of the pandemic, were fairly stable after that and are now coming down. Compared to May, base models are down by 9.6%, S models by 9.4%, the Ts by 7.2%, GTSs by 5.4% and the 4-liter GTSs by 8.1%. So the price decreases are approximately in the same league. All cars are then also down in value when you compare prices to last year. Just as for the other generations, I looked at the differences between the manuals and the PDKs. But the conclusion remains the same, there isn't any difference. Over here we have the transmission type split for the base market. There are a few occasions where one is more expensive than the other, but this is because the market composition is different. Not so much because the price trends behave differently. And with that it's time to wrap up and conclude. It's no surprise that the price trends in the Cayman market turned down. Compared to May, values are on average down by 9%, but there are differences between the model types. Compared to May, we can see that the GTSs kept their value the best. It is of course a bit premature to conclude that this will also hold going forward, but it is worth to monitor the price developments. These changes in the price trend are of course not unique. Price trends in the sports or exotic car market are highly correlated. The complete market topped during the summer and is now correcting. The big question is of course, how big of a correction will this be? Is this just the beginning or will we see price trends bottoming out soon? If you care about values and are contemplating the purchase of a Cayman, that's a relevant question. If you don't care about values and still made it till here in the video, well done. When it comes to future prices, there are of course several scenarios of which some are more likely than others. If you look at the comment section of some YouTube videos, it might seem that the end of the world is approaching, but this is of course an unlikely scenario. Looking through a more optimistic lens, it might well be so that prices are not coming down any further. But whatever it may be, in my opinion, it's worthwhile to wait a moment before you purchase that Cayman. Again, that is, if you care about values. Price trends only turned negative during the last few months, and the current depreciation rates are higher than usual. So if you buy one now, you risk catching a falling knife. And with that we arrive at the end of this video. Now if you enjoy this data-driven way of analyzing car markets, but would like to see the analysis for a different car, let me know the name of that car by commenting it down below in the comment section. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I will make a video about it. Don't forget to subscribe and to click on the notification bell so you get notified when your requested analysis goes live. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next week for a new video.